Hey, before I got into today's message, I just wanted to give a little bit of a preamble of sorts. You might be wondering, or maybe you've never thought about it, that's absolutely fine, as to why I do what I do. In terms of like, Josh, why do you do pastoring, or why do you do preaching and that sort of stuff? Now, I'm glad you asked. The reason is, and it's going to sound a little corny at first, but I'll explain it. The reason that I do what I do, genuinely from my side, is because I actually want you to be better at what you do. And that might sound a bit weird, like, okay, well, why do I exist? I do what I do, and I exist here because I want your life to go well. And I do, to be honest, have a little bit of a selfish reason for that. You see, I have a wife, I have friends, I have kids that are going to grow up in this world, in this community, and they're going to experience this life. And you know what? I want them to be surrounded by great people. I want them to be surrounded by people that know what it's like to live with Jesus in their lives. I want them to be surrounded by people who are equipped with the skills to handle conflict, to live their lives well. And I want my kids, my family, my friends to have those things as well. And what I realized early on in my life is that if I can help other people, if I can bring things to people's attention that helps you work on your life to get you to a space where you're happier, you're better, you're healthier, you're more engaged with your faith journey, then the benefits of that aren't just for you. They cascade outside of you. One of the reasons I love the message of Jesus and people that follow Jesus is because when they get a hold of the core of the gospel that God gave his son for you and the way we live our lives is for other people, society's just better. Families are healthier. Life goes well when you live in the unforced rhythms of God's grace and the way that God intended us to be designed and the way that we should live. So the reason that I do what I do is because I genuinely believe that everyone in this room and everyone watching online and everyone we interact with is someone who's loved by God, seen by God, and deserves to have an ongoing relationship with him. So the reason that I pastor, the reason that I preach is because I want you to have a better life. I want you to interact with your faith and interact with God. So today what we're going to do is we're just doing a one-part series and we're going to look at some general wisdom which I think will make your life better. Now, if you haven't been around church for a while or you may not know this, perhaps if you've been around church you know this for a fact, there's a book in the Bible called Proverbs. And Proverbs is a profoundly great wisdom piece of literature that's been put together that when you look at how our marketplace runs, when you look at how our society runs, the best of what we do in the workforce, you can trace it back and you'll see in the book of Proverbs, it's probably something from there. A lot of the practices around servant-hearted leadership and the way that we should live our lives comes from Proverbs, comes from Jesus. And so we're going to be looking at a couple of Proverbs that can help us as we go on our journey through life. So this series is called, or today is called Rules for the Road, because we've all got a destination in mind. We're all trying to get somewhere. So I just want to give you 3 rules that could help you from here out be able to make sure that you have the best journey possible. So we're going to have a look at a couple of these Proverbs together. And my aim is this morning is to hopefully allow you to be able to feel comfortable as you step out in planning your journey of life, where you're going, where you're heading, that you'll feel that there's some good tips and tricks that will help you going forward. And I do recognize that for some of you, when you hear this, you're going to look back at your life and realize, I've done that, but without knowing it, and this might put some words around that. Or maybe part of your life you are where you are because you didn't listen to some of this advice and you learnt the hard way, and maybe you're going, I don't want others to learn the hard way, so it's something you could pass on perhaps to your children, your grandchildren, or to your friendship circle. So, rules for the road, 3 tips to ensure that you reach your destination safely. So when you go driving, for those of us that drive, when you go driving, or if you've driven before, how do you normally drive? Looking out the window, right? You drive looking forward. Occasionally, when you're driving, make sure that you're safe, you'll use your mirrors to look back and to check your traffic. This morning, I had to go and drop Azalea, my eldest daughter, off at a gym competition she's doing down in Leaderville. So as I was driving there, I had one moment this morning where I was looking forward and I had no one in front of me and I was about to change lanes. And luckily I checked in my rearview mirror because a guy sort of come up behind me and I wasn't paying full attention, obviously. And I was like, oh, there's someone in. So I avoided catastrophe, thank goodness. But when we drive, we look out the front window. We don't look at our mirrors and focus purely on them. But for some reason, when it comes to life, I don't know why this is, maybe it's just a people thing. When it comes to how we live our lives, as we try to plan where we're going, we look forward to our future, but we spend a lot of our time looking in our mirrors, looking at what's already happened. You look back at your life and you look back to the things that have happened, and if you don't watch it, we can start to live trying to focus on what's already happened rather than what is actually coming up. We try to relive some of the things that have already happened in our lives, that's already gone behind us. There's only, in reality, a few things we get to do a first time, and then they're gone. In terms of our first marriage, when we're raising our kids, when we're developing certain friendship circles, there's only certain things that we can do one time. But for some of us, for some reason, I find myself doing this. I look back at the yesteryears, and I try to make decisions based out of what's already gone behind me. But the truth of the matter is that if we live that way, we've got to learn from the past. But if we live always looking back at the past, we're going to miss out on the destination where we're going, and we're not able to do that safely or well. So today, here's 3 rules I believe that are going to help you as you go forward in your life. This is rule number 1. Rule number 1 is don't travel alone. Don't travel alone. Now, that's hard for me. I love driving by myself. I find it really relaxing. Is anyone else like that? Something peaceful about just you, the road. I find myself at times driving around and I'll actually go I'll take the long route just to enjoy those few more pieces of silence. And that might be stage of life, maybe, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that for you and I, we know this, life is better when we are connected with other people. When we travel in life and our way of operating is by ourselves and we're not connected with other people, that's not healthy. We get isolated. I think that friends actually make the journey we're traveling on worth traveling at times. Sometimes I get up in the morning and I go to myself, why am I doing today? I wake up and I sort of go, because today is the same as yesterday, which is the same as yesterday, which is the same as yesterday. I'm going to get up, I'm going to get the kids ready for school, put them off to school, go to work, come home, play with the kids and have fun, put them to bed, go to bed, and then wake up and do it all again. But I'm always reminded, my friends, my relationships, the people I'm doing life with, they make it fun, interesting, they make it worthwhile. So the people that we surround ourselves with are actually people that are going to determine what the road is like for us. And you and I know this for a fact, that when we've had good times in our lives, it's most of the time because we've been surrounded by good community, by good people. When I think back to my years of when I used to study back at Bible college and even my schooling time, I enjoyed doing Bible college and I enjoyed schooling, but what I really enjoyed was my friends. I enjoyed that time of my life. So those people we surround ourselves determine the quality of our lives, and most of the time they actually determine the direction as well. Which means that who you choose to do life with is going to impact you. It's going to affect you. Because acceptance is magnetic. We love it. We love it when people like us. We love it when people are like us. And what happens is that because acceptance is magnetic, and if you're a parent and you've got kids in their teenage years, you probably have thought a lot like, I don't want you to hang out with them, that sort of thing, but they seem to want to hang out with people who accept them. Because acceptance is magnetic, but we need to fight that to actually look for people who share our values. We need to look for people who share our values. I've had multiple times in my life where I began friendship groups, and I think back to year 11 especially, when I transitioned from my small school to the much bigger school. I went from a school with 200 people in it to a school with 200 people in my year group. It was a big adjustment. And when I shifted over to this new school, I found myself hanging out with some people that accepted me, and I enjoyed hanging out with them. But what I quickly realized is that while they did accept me, I didn't align with their values. And I started to look at the way that they lived, and they loved going on the weekends and drinking it up and having a good time and all that sort of stuff. And it wasn't that I didn't like them as people. I just started looking at how they lived and went, I don't think that's what I want. but I liked them because they liked me. And while that acceptance drew me into relationship, I very quickly realized that they're great people, but I don't think I want to really share my life deeply with them. Because if who we travel with determines the direction and the quality of our lives, we want to surround ourselves with people who value what we value. You want your inner circle to value what you value, not just have the same interest in a show or in cars or in books or TV. Just because you share a common interest doesn't mean that that's necessarily people that you want right there with you. There's a proverb in 13:20 that says this: whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. A simple definition of wisdom, if you're looking for one, is basically understanding that all of life is connected. Understanding that what happens today impacts tomorrow. That's wisdom. People who are wise have figured out their lives, have figured out that what I'm doing now has an impact on my future. And the influences that are influencing me now are influencing my future. Wisdom is just recognizing that life is connected. What happens today affects tomorrow. But the second part, that first part, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. That's awesome, helpful advice. But the second part's the interesting part to me. But the companion of fools will suffer harm. Now, you know what's interesting to me about that? So the first one, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. The second one isn't whoever practices being foolish will be harmed. It says the companion, the people who are surrounded by, the people who associate with fools will suffer harm. And this is because, and you know this intrinsically, and you know this from your own life experience, you didn't have to be the one making the decision to be affected by the decision. Right? You could have just been around them. You could have just been in the car with them. You could have just been associated with them. But their decision impacted your life, even if you weren't the one that did it. The companion of fool will suffer harm. So summarizing this rule up, travel with people who take care of themselves. Because if they're going to take care of themselves, then when you need help, they're going to also be able to come alongside and take care of you. So rule number 1, don't travel alone. Rule number 2 is this: don't pick up strangers. Who is a stranger? Someone who is strange, or at least a little bit stranger than you. Now, I found in my life that I find it very difficult to meet strangers because to me, everyone's fascinating, right? I love catching up with people. Manel did point out to me once, Josh, maybe you're the one who's the stranger and you're the one freaking people out. I'm like, I know, but I just want to talk to people. I remember one time my grandpa, bless him, he's amazing, old Baptist pastor. He'll talk to, like me, he'll just talk to a brick wall and get something out of it. My grandpa's walking around one day, and it's after but he came up to hear me preach at Inglewood Community Church, so we went to Morley Galleria for lunch, and my grandpa disappeared for a second, and we're looking around like, where's Grandpa? Where's Fred gone? So we're a little bit worried for a second, and then we hear some laughing, and we're in Morley Galleria in the big seating area, and he's about 4 tables over, sitting down with another family, laughing, being offered food. Somehow he wiggled himself in, got down there, and they're giving him food. Now, one person in that conversation was like, who are you? The other 3 are laughing it up, and I'm just like, oh, Grandpa. Anyway, strangers, people who are a stranger, at least a little bit stranger than you. Here's the thing about picking up strangers. It's all about being careful about who you let into that inner part of your walk, that inner part of how you live. Going with the metaphor of a car for a second, when you're on your journey of life, you need to be so careful with the influences that you allow to sit with you in the car. You need to make sure that the people you surround yourselves with, as we said before, are the right sort of people. Because there are some people in our lives, and if you're honest enough to self-reflect properly, you get this. There's people in your lives that you have connection with right now that when they are around you, you are not your best you. For some reason, there's people in our lives that when we're around them, we feel we need to walk on eggshells, or we feel that we need to change parts of our behavior, or we need to deny parts of who we are. There's people in our lives that when we are connected with them, we're not us. We change who we are to match them, to match the circumstance. And that's because we've let someone strange into our car. And the thing with those sort of people is that they just need to be dropped off as quickly as possible. And you've done this before. A lot of us, and majority of us probably, we come in contact with people, we let them into our car, we start to realize this is not a healthy dynamic, and then we sort of ghost out of there and we just don't say anything and we never connect again and we go by. For some of us, we take that courageous step to have the conversation and say, hey, we're not a great working dynamic right now. We need a bit of space. And you need to get those people that don't allow you to be who you're meant to be and who God's calling you to be, and you need to get them out of the car. The truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, is that those people are loved by God and they need to be in community, but those sort of people you just don't have capacity for right now to handle. And that's okay. For some of you who's listening to this, you're rescuers. You just need everyone to be okay with you. You need everyone to be okay. And there's certain people you allow into your life that you just can't handle and you just need to drop off. God loves them. They need what they need, but you don't have what you need to be the person that you need to be. If you ever find that someone in your life is causing tension inside of you, if there's ever that moment in your conscience you get dinged like this isn't a good dynamic, if you ever find yourself doing something that you didn't intend to do, if you ever find yourself drifting from your values, or if you find yourself, this is a big one, especially when you're younger, being dishonest with one group of people to keep another group of people happy, those people need to get out of your life. You need to remove them. They're a stranger. In the same way you don't go and repeatedly loan your car out to someone who bashes it up, why would you lend yourself out to people who do not value you and do not see your worth? And then finally, rule number 3, choose a destination and borrow a map. And I think this is probably the most useful one. We all know we shouldn't be alone. There's a lot of stuff around mental health at the moment. We need people. We need community. We're healthier for it. We do know that when we let strangers in our lives, that hurts us because experientially we have been hurt by people and we have hurt people when those dynamics aren't healthy. But this third one is one we probably don't think about as much. We may think about the first part, choose a destination. What do you want to be where you grow up? Where do you want to be in your life? We think of that part often probably. But that second part, borrow a map. That might be something that's a little bit new or something you haven't thought about for a while. Because everyone ends up in life somewhere. And a few of us get to end up there on purpose. I don't know about you, I find seasons in my life where I look around and I'm like, how did I get here? And other times in my life I go, I planned to be here. And those are two very different experiences. So it's important to determine and choose a specific destination in each season of life. You want to sort of determine for yourself, well, what do I want life to look like in this current season? When I stepped from being single to being married, I had to choose a new destination. I had to rethink where I was heading and what was happening. When I moved from being married to being a parent, that changed things again. What do I want life to look like now that I'm a parent? When my kids get older and we become empty nesters one day, then things will shift again. One day, God willing, if we have grandkids, then things will shift again. You just got to go right now in my current season of life, with what I've been allotted, the time I have to use, the resources in my hands. What do I want it to look like? Dream a little. Pick a destination. Choose a destination. And the second part of that is to borrow a map. Borrow a map. Because there's this principle called the principle of the path. If you haven't heard it before, this will understand or explain why you need a map. The principle of the path says this. It's the direction, not the intention, that determines the destination. Is anyone in here like me a little bit of a dreamer? I like to sit down and just sort of go, imagine what life could be like. I have notebooks upon notebooks filled out of fake budgets, fake time, how I want to use my time, goals. I just think to myself, where does Josh want to be in the future? And I just start to write stuff down and I just dream and dream and dream. Is anyone else like that? Yeah, a couple of you. Some of you guys are like, no, that's unrealistic. And I get it. That's why I have Marnell. She tells me that's unrealistic. She's more of a perfectionist than I am and wants to deal with what's real. I'm like, imagine. But the truth is that I didn't end up where I was because of my intention for wanting to do better or be better. It's the choices I made day by day that got me to where I am. Good and bad. Planned and unplanned. Because it's the direction, it's the choices you make, it's the way in which you move. That's what gets you to where you're going, not just your intention to want to do better. That's why you have friends or have had friends in your life that you think they've messed up again, and they keep telling me they want to do better, they want to do better, they want to do better, but they just don't do better. Because they don't have the capacity, or perhaps they don't have the tools at that time to be able to reach out and make the decisions, the choices to change their destination by actually making a directional choice to change what they're doing. They just intended to do better, intended to do well, but your intentions don't count for much. You can want to have done the right thing, but at the end of the day, what happened, and how that affects other people matters. And intention with direction, to be honest, is just risky as well. Like if you don't make a choice to move in a certain direction and you just want to be somewhere, you will live through your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you'll go through raising kids, you'll end up in a space looking back going, I intended to do the right thing, but when you look at the result, it wasn't what you had intended. Because, again, sticking with the car metaphor, you can have the rear view mirrors to look back at what's happening, but when it comes to life, you can't go back and change it. And you're going to live with the choices you made, not the intentions you had. So once you choose that destination, you've got to borrow a map. You need to find someone who has got to where you want to be and come alongside them and say, I love how you parent. I love how you work. I love how you do empty nesting. I love how you do retirement. I love how you do this. How did you get there? Borrow a map. Go and they've learnt stuff that you don't have to go and learn because they've already experienced it. You can go and say to them, hey, I see where you've ended up. I can see the result of your life. Can you give me some insight? And if you go and ask someone that question, they're going to love you. Because who doesn't love to be asked, how did you get to where you are? Can you share your story? We love that, right? It's a bit of fun to get to share with people, like, this is how we did it. These are the things we saw. This is what we missed. If we could do it again, we would have done this differently. Manel and I love when we get to chat with people who have kids in their teen years, because you get to hear some of the things that are coming up and learn from some things that they're able to reflect and go, when our kids were younger, we wish we had, and we can listen to that and learn from that and apply that before we have to go and make the same mistake. There's a law called Vernon's Law, and it goes like this. It goes, experience is a hard teacher because it gives the test first and the lesson afterward. Isn't that amazing? When I saw that, I was like, that's price of admission right there. You came to church today, pays it off. Experience is a hard teacher because it gives the test first and the lesson afterwards. Man, if you had known what you know now, when the event happened, you wouldn't have done the thing you did, right? When you're in your 20s, when you were young married, when you were single, when you were going through that difficult season, if you'd known what you know now, you wouldn't have made the decision you made. But the problem is that life hit you first and then said, now learn from it. And we can choose, and you can choose. Go for it. Go nuts. I don't care. If you want to do it this way, go for it. You can choose to just ignore everyone else's experience and go, you know what, I'm going to learn every lesson I can. And you're going to learn it the hard way, and life is going to hit you again and again and again and again. But why would you do that when you can borrow someone else's experience? One of the things in chess, if you like chess, which is fascinating, is that all these young kids come out, right, and they're all prodigies, and they're like 10 years old and doing crazy things, and they're able to do things that grandmasters have struggled with, right? And one of the things I saw on a YouTube commentator, he was talking about this idea, and it's fascinating, that people look at these young chess players and go, wow, they're getting smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter. Like old chess grandmasters of the past, these young kids can go and they can do techniques that they could only dream of. The 10-year-old's not smarter. He just has the textbook of what that person did, how that grandmaster operated. They don't have to be the smartest. They just have to know the moves. And those experiences that were fought for in the past can be accessed by the current generation to go, I know that move. At the time it was new, it was amazing, it beat everyone, but this 10-year-old can go, I know how to defend against that, and I know 30 moves ahead of how that's going to work. It's the same in life. We look back and we go, how did you not know that? How could you know? But we get the opportunity right now to know the most that we currently know, looking back at what has happened in the past. Experience is a hard teacher. It gives the test first, the lesson afterwards. So you want to get that information you need. You want to get there first and ask the questions for where you currently are before it happens to you. Proverbs 19:20 says this. It says, listen to counsel and accept discipline, that you may be wise the rest of your days. Listen to counsel and accept discipline, that you may be wise the rest of your days. When it says accept discipline, what that means is that when life needs to change and you need to change your behavior, accept that. Listen to counsel. Listen to wise counsel. Surround yourself with wise people. Accept discipline, and then you will be wise the rest of your days. If you listen to counsel and accept when you're wrong, when you take the habits and the decisions of your life and you go, I need to change and I need to adapt to grow, when you listen to that, then you will become wise and the rest of your days will be better for it. If you haven't read the book of Proverbs for a while, I encourage you to go and have a read of it. There's some incredible stuff in there, and there's these little lines that just remind us that wisdom is something worth having because it impacts today, tomorrow, and the rest of our lives. Because when you grasp that concept that everything is connected, what you do today impacts tomorrow, what you're influenced by today impacts tomorrow, then you can take a step ahead of the game and go, how can I learn from others? How can I borrow a map? How can I pick my destination and live wisely? And I can't guarantee results. It's not like you pick this up and everything's going to go perfect for you. But I guarantee that if you apply this stuff, these 3 rules for the road, if you don't travel alone, if you make sure that you don't pick up strangers, or if you have one in the car, drop them off, and if you pick a destination and borrow a map, I can't guarantee your life will be perfect, but I can guarantee that your life will be more fulfilling and healthier. No one lives this life going 100% on the scoreboard, right? The only person who did that was Jesus, and he's already gone. Everyone else, we leave the earth a little bit wise, a little bit dumb, a little bit together, a little bit apart, a little bit accomplished, a little bit unaccomplished. We leave the earth with a to-do list that's never truly completed. But if you apply these 3 rules for the road, then I believe that you will leave this earth going, I did the best with what I had, and I was healthier for it, and my community was better for it. As I said at the beginning of this talk, I just want you to be healthy. I want you to realize that God sees you, loves you, and you can make decisions in your faith journey that impact not just you, your family, and your community. And part of that is that we're called to lean into wisdom, to get wisdom, so that we can make decisions that are best for us and best for those around us. Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, thank you so much that you give us such wise words, that you give us such amazing insight. Lord God, right now, for everyone who's listening to this right now or in the future, I just do pray that you will give us what we need for this current season of life. That you will give us the insight we need. That you will give us the resources that we need. That you will put the right relationships around us, and that you will help us step away from the ones that are not right. So that we can live as your child, the way we were designed to. In relationship with others, loving others, making the wise choice in every season of our lives. Help us with that. Help us not just to see it, help us to do it. In your name and for your glory. Amen.